Welcome back to the Fan Speak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown, the Underdog Battle Royale edition. I'm Meg. You can find me on Twitter at Megs08DFS. And you can, of course, find my sibling, my brother Steve, at SteveOSpeak. Steve, how was your week 9? I can't believe we're already heading to week 10. And are you ready to talk a little week 10 Battle Royale and do a live draft, of course?
Yeah, no. Week nine was pretty good. Had a couple DFS lineups and other things that were so close, just one away from really having a huge week. But close, close overall, and just need a little bit more from a few guys. But just going to move on and hope this week keep firing. And this is definitely an interesting week with three of the top offenses on bye.
Right. Yeah. Steve makes a good point. Obviously, we've got for week 10, we have the Chiefs, the Eagles, help me out.
Dolphins.
Yeah. Thank you. And the Rams. Yeah. Obviously the Rams haven't done much lately with Kupp coming back and Stafford being injured and, that kind of thing. But those are 4 top offenses, 3 of the top offenses. So that's huge. There is another Germany game. We don't really care about it as much so as Patriots Colts, I believe. So that leaves us with our main slate here for Battle Royale that we are going to be talking about. And to me, there's a few games to stick out. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's first look, Steve, at kind of what worked last week. I'm going to bring over Underdog. I'm looking at the, let me see if I can bump this up a bit. But looking at the winner, CJ Stroud was the nuts. And to the point that we make, where rankings aren't gospel, make your own rankings and don't be afraid, especially if you're running multiple lineups or doing multiple drafts, to go down farther from guys, only, again, you're in a draft with 5 other people. It's six people drafting and snake draft style. Obviously, you're only drafting 6 positions, all are starting. And to that point, a guy like CJ Stroud probably wasn't drafted in a lot of drafts because he was coming under those top 6 quarterbacks that were picked. And so if you got creative and took CJ Stroud and even did a stack with Dell and or Schultz, that's what got you to the top. So all the top lineups were Stroud. Again, one of Dell and or Schultz were usually with them. A lot of top lineups did have a Jacobs-Taylor combination. I think just what you could fit then. And then, of course, Lamb, Cooper were some of the obviously top receivers that you wanted. But you could also stack with Dell, who was, again, someone you'd have to jump down. So, again, it speaks to a lot of strategies we've talked to. Don't be afraid to jump down, get creative in Battle Royale drafts. Stacking's great. It certainly worked with CJ Stroud. But you don't certainly have to force a run back. You didn't want to run back in the Tampa Bay. You could have had a run back. I'm sorry. You could have had a run back in the Tampa Bay game, but you don't have to force it. There was, let's see, Rachaad White or
Cade Otton if you took that.
It was Cade Otton. Yeah, Rachaad White and Cade Otton would have been the run back. But in this case, in the amount of lineups you have, you don't have to force it. And another 2 running back lineup were a lot of the top lineups that we saw. So for week 10, before we get into it, Steve, what sticks out to me in week 10 is that, and I'm just going to pull it up just so we can, but what sticks out to me in week 10 is we have 3 games that I really want to consider or target, at least for a quarterback or stack perspective. And that's the highest totals on the slate. Of course, in this, landscape of offense being down, scoring being down, quarterback scores being down overall, I do gravitate towards the highest total games. I gravitated to, Dak and Hurts last week in the Dallas-Philly game. But, we've got the 3 high totals on the slate being the Chargers, Lions, the Bengals, Texans. And, I kind of like the Commanders, Seahawks as well. Maybe that one might be one of the ones more under the radar, certainly from a stacking perspective. What do you think about those 3 game stacks, or as far as the quarterbacks and potential stacks in those 3 games?
Yeah, no, I think those are definitely the ones we know. Cincinnati's offense these last few games is really looking like the Cincinnati offense we all expected coming into the season. All the weapons are firing. Even the tight ends are now getting involved. Mm-hmm. Houston, it's still a rookie quarterback, but CJ Stroud's the deal. He's a real deal, and it's going to be a tough defense. But he's going to get pushed and likely, and that can obviously lead to some big results. And sure, it's going to be a tougher matchup, but I still think he can play, and I just wouldn't be surprised if he has another decent game. Herbert and Goff are definitely two very good quarterbacks, and Goff, the biggest knock on him is what we saw the last time they played 2 weeks ago in the Raiders game. He's very efficient, but when they're running for 200 plus yards, he doesn't need to get there. In this type of game, if the Chargers are pushing back,
Right.
and they're not blowing out the Raiders by a couple scores, then I think Goff could have a big game. And the other thing with that game was they had to settle for so many field goals because they got so inefficient around the red zone. Now David Montgomery could be back. One, they should just be throwing to Sam Laporta more in the red zone.
Right.
And their top receiver, Amon-Ra, he's getting like no targets inside the red zone. Just doesn't make sense. So, it's just like that's the type of thing where that game could really go off. And finally, that Commanders-Seattle game, Washington is throwing at one of the highest clips. Seattle's defense has been very hit or miss. Sometimes they look great, sometimes they do not. And and their offense has been up and down, but we know they have playmakers. We know Walker can be a home run hitter. We know Metcalf and Lockett and JSN are, from a talent perspective, one of the best top 3 receiver groups in the league. Geno has not been effective these last 3 weeks, but we also know he can be effective. He was
and
against
Washington's
the
a defense you want to target,
exactly,
obviously.
exactly. So those 3 games are the ones that could really, really get up there and probably go over the totals this week.
Yeah, and we do, especially in you only have 6 positions. You have quarterback, running back, 2 receivers, tight end, flex. I just want to remind that every time that's what you're drafting, that's what you're starting, that's what you're playing, that's it. So no bench spots. So with that said, it's not like you really are taking those deeper plays just for value or anything like that. In this case, the value is obviously in your 6 position draft position spots. And I really do want to get a lot of pieces of those games with the lack of scoring, unless we find other values and spots. I mean, we'll speak to it as we go through it. There are some other spots, certainly. For instance, for tight end, I definitely like Sam Laporta above a lot of the other tight ends this week. I think he could have that like separator type situation. More so this week with Kelsey being off the slate, and just given the nature of the tight end slate, if Debo's back, that kind of hampers Kittle usually a little. So those are the kind of things I want to consider. And the other thing I want to consider, just speaking to their pushback, and then we can jump into it. Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, we love Dak this week, or we love Dak ever since. Well, I'll start over. We loved Dak going into the season. We drafted him a lot in best ball. Didn't start great, but after the bye, it's been amazing. 30 plus DraftKings, at least point games, 30 plus DraftKings point games, 2 weeks in a row. But the fear is this week, absolutely no pushback with the huge spread against the Giants and their backup quarterback situation. It's very hard to see them being pushed. Sure, could he be the reason they put up a ton? Yes, but I'd probably rather go to other options that are going to be pushed, to your point. So why don't we jump in and draft, and we'll just talk through it. And that's what's great about this. So we are jumping in the Battle Royale $5 buy-in live draft. I believe top prize this week is $25,000. Nice flat payouts. We are waiting for 4 people. So why don't we just take a look at the rankings as we're waiting. Can you see the board okay? Yeah. Okay. So of course, well, I'll just look at the top of the board. You have McCaffrey, Lamb, Chase, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Eckler, Kamara, Keenan Allen, then your first quarterback, Joe Burrow, ETN, your first tight end, Mark Andrews, Jahmyr Gibbs, T. Higgins, Tony Pollard, Sam Laporta, Lamar Jackson. So that's kind of like your top 15. Again, those are the top quarterbacks. Lamar, listen, we always love Lamar. He's always got the potential, but I see this as a potential AFC North slugfest. So I don't have a ton of interest in that game. We're still waiting on 2 people. So again, my main interest will probably be either Burrow, Herbert, if possible. But if we want to go down, I don't have any problem with going down to a Jared Goff, a Geno, farther down a Sam Howell. That could be, again, the way that the Washington is throwing, Sam Howell was actually one of the ones lineups I cashed in last week because again, I was like, I'm going to go down a little bit here. And I think I got him with McLaurin, who was good. So, those are the ones I'm interested in. Obviously, really love McCaffrey at the top. Who would be your first pick overall if you could? Well, we have pick number 5. So it is now
McCaffrey's
loaded.
the clear one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. McCaffrey is the clear one. So now let's talk through options. Given that McCaffrey will probably be gone, some of these top receivers will be gone. Who at the top of the board do you like? I mean, usually I'd say running back, but I wouldn't mind grabbing like an Amon-Ra St. Brown or Keenan Allen if he was still there. What are your thoughts?
Chase, Amon-Ra, or Brown.
What are the reports on Chase?
Saying day to day. I mean, I'd be shocked if he doesn't play.
Yeah. Yes. I'd be shocked if he doesn't play as well. I probably personally like the other ones a little better. I do like the game environment the best in that Detroit Chargers game. So I think with my first overall pick, that's why I leaned personally towards Amon-Ra and Keenan, but I'll throw Chase in there as well. So would you draft any of the three of them over Amon-Ra went first, over, oh my goodness, McCaffrey went second. I was like, if someone's going to leave McCaffrey there at 5, we'll take him. Lamb went third. So when Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, we'll see what happens. You would take one of these two over Eckler or Kamara?
Yeah. I'd take Keenan Allen next.
Okay, that's my hope is he falls. Okay, so they took Chase and Keenan Allen is there. And then so coming back at 8, I'm just curious where that would be later. But coming back at 8, what are you kind of looking at? I mean, obviously, I don't know that we want to totally overload that game. So
I'd probably take ETN.
Even against the San Francisco defense?
Yeah, I just think his usage is just extremely strong.
Okay, so Eckler went. It's Kamara, Burrow, ETN at the top of the board. I
can hope that Kamara goes back to the usage that he had before last week. Minnesota has been very tough against the run, especially of late.
Okay, it went Mark Andrews.
Do
you want to go? I think grabbing our first running back makes sense here. Do you want to go?
Yeah.
You want to go ETN?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Let's grab him. And then let's take a look at the board. So obviously, again, it went Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. We're at the 5 spot. Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mark Andrews, and then we got Travis Etienne on the way back. And then again, it's now going through the second round. We will have picks 17 and then looping back around 20 in the third round. So with our third and fourth round pick, I don't know what you think, but if Herbert is there, I do want one of the top quarterbacks in those top game environments. So especially since we already have Keenan Allen, I like that. Laporta just went. I literally was queuing him up. I was going to say if Laporta's still there, I say we take him since he's a top tight end on the board. You could get some leverage there, but we could queue now with that. I'm fine just waiting on tight end.
Yeah.
Laporta was the one I was going to make an exception for. So I would say Herbert, and then let's queue up some other running backs and receivers we like in this range. So
Joe Mixon, 100%.
Okay, we can get him a little later, so we can definitely. And then any receivers you like? Hey.
I mean, Metcalf's fine.
Yeah, tough thing. I want to target that Washington offense. I just can't decide which one's going to go off against them. You know, there's a little run on quarterbacks here. I'm going to go ahead and take Herbert to get our guy because I'm afraid that is going to be gone. And I'm not worried about Mixon not being there. Then we can decide between kind of reaching for Mixon or because again, reaching isn't a thing necessarily. Here you go with. Okay, so Herbert. So we have the Herbert, Keenan Allen stack with Travis Etienne. So we're probably going to want one more running back, one more receiver. And of course, since we didn't get Laporta, we're fine waiting on tight end. So you like Mixon above Walker, Derrick Henry, and Bijan Robinson. Okay.
Yeah, I think assuming that Montgomery's back this week and he's sharing time with Gibbs, I think Mixon's probably like RB4 this week. That's where he should be.
Okay. Yeah, I know we love David Montgomery. He is currently still questionable, but pay attention to that news later in the week because obviously that might that is, again, the highest team total or team games total on the slate, and something we will consider as far as just wanting exposure to that game with either Montgomery. I like Montgomery over Gibbs, especially on Underdog. So do you want to go Mixon here? Or are there any other receivers that jump out? Okay,
Mixon,
let's get our second running back then. Okay, so we have, let's look at the board again. And we are 8 picks away. So again, we went Justin Herbert at 17, looped back around and grabbed Joe Mixon. We'll be up again at pick 29. And then our last pick will be at 32. So we'll be grabbing one more receiver and a tight end. Again, our strategy was if Laporte was there, take him. That's why I was about to queue him up for like our 3rd round pick. He went early, which makes sense given the nature of this slate. Mark Andrews and Laporta both went in the 2nd round. TJ Hawkinson went in the 3rd round. So I'm, kind of fine waiting till our last pick with that and queuing up some receivers we like here. So I was just about to queue Mike Evans. Brandon Ayuk, I like better if Debo's out. I think Debo could play, but we could queue him up. What other receivers do you want to queue up? I mean, I certainly think you could queue Washington receivers, Nico Collins, Calvin Ridley. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like McLaurin. Ridley's fine. I like Lockett. I like Lockett actually a lot. Lockett's going to give Washington a lot of problems.
Why do you like him? Just to talk this through, maybe the most out of the Seattle receivers versus Washington.
Yeah, I just think Metcalf has just not looked right lately, and I mean Lockett's just had a larger target share, and just however they want to cover him, I just don't think they can. Like he can run deep, he can run the shorter routes, intermediate routes. Like he can just do a lot of everything, and I mean they can't cover anything. So whoever goes up against him, it's a mismatch.
So Washington secondary is one you want to target. So I think grabbing Tyler Lockett makes sense, and they did. So of course. So it's Brandon, there's Deontay Johnson, Tank Dell, Amari Cooper, Nico Collins that we didn't queue up. Do you want to do Terry McLaurin?
I do Terry.
I really like that game environment. Yeah. I mean, just the amount that we're throwing, and he is getting the highest target share. That's why that makes sense. Okay, so let's go over to tight end. That'll be our last pick at pick 32. We got Jake Ferguson, Dalton Schultz, Evan Ingram, Trey McBride, Kyle Pitts. I think all these guys are in play. Name your tight end. We are on the clock.
Yeah, I'd probably go Trey McBride. I think with Kyler coming back, they're going to need a lot of quick, safe throws to him. And
you like McBride over even Schultz in that high total game?
Yeah, I don't mind Schultz. It's just, last week was kind of the first time he's really had a big game, and they just have a lot of weapons there. Feel like they could fluctuate.
Whereas McBride, okay. Well, I queued up McBride and we got him. So we were able to round it out there. So let's take a look at the full draft board here. So again, we had the 5th spot. We started with Keenan Allen. On the way back, got Travis Etienne. Then got Justin Herbert for the Keenan Allen Herbert stack. And then got Joe would love to have gotten someone from Detroit, just didn't fall that way. Again, we were queuing up Laporta. That didn't work there. Obviously, we like the running backs. That's why I said pay attention to that running back news. But we got Justin Herbert, Joe Mixon, Terry McLaurin, and Trey McBride. So yeah, I'm happy with this team. I like it a lot. Again, my goals were to get kind of access to those higher total games that we like, and or condensed offenses or good target shares, like in the case of McLaurin. McBride, obviously ETN's usage, all the usages here, game environments are here. I really like this. What are your final thoughts? And then we can get out of here.
Yeah, no, I think, I think you look at it from that perspective, and sure, you need the right kind of run out. You need Mixon. We know his usage is right. He's been getting kind of like 1 touchdown games, but we've seen in years past, he gets those 2 or 3 touchdown games. That's what we need. Same with ETN, same with, Keenan Allen. He gets all these catches. He had the 2 or 3 touchdown games earlier in the year. We needed it this week. That's what it boils down to. And obviously that will help with Herbert. So, that's the type of run out that we need. But that kind of build, if those things happen, because we have the usage, it's very possible that it happens. So I think that's what you kind of need to just play on and look at it. And because we took a little, we went a little deeper. We didn't just follow the board and took Mixon like lower. We're definitely going to be more unique than other people who maybe started like Allen ETN or something like that.
Right. Differentiating from the Allen ETN stacks. That makes a ton of sense. I say, just put a note to check out our articles on fanspeak.com. Steve does weekly rankings, which will be up tomorrow, Wednesday. Wednesday, will have the underdog rankings up. And of course, like this episode, subscribe to the Fanspeak Network and let a friend know if they like any daily fantasy sports betting. And of course, Underdog content. And finally, if you are new to Underdog, be sure to use code Fanspeak for 100% deposit bonus up to 100% or up to $100. Nice little, deposit $100, get $100. That is nice for your Underdog drafts. So this was fun, Steve. Always is. Love doing these. Love Underdog. I just love Underdog so much and love these battle royales. So we're going to continue to have fun with this. Check it out each and every week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck in all your week 10 contests, and we will see you next time.